If you are arguing about something for more than 3 minutes, you are no longer arguing about whatever that seeming subject is. You are now arguing about the relationship. Can your relationship be saved? Well, I'm going to help you recognize the burnout in your relationship and point you towards a solution. So stick with me, and here we go. Now, relationship burnout is a real phenomenon. It is a real thing. Many of us have been there. Many of us have experienced it. It's a lot like job burnout. And it happens when the excitement and the joy of being with your partner starts to fade and gets replaced with a lot of exhaustion, negativity, disconnection, and resentment as well. And this relationship burnout, what happens is that we start to see our relationship through a negative lens. We start to see more negatives than positives. And many years ago, I had a great professor, brilliant guy. It was a marriage and family class. And he talked about working with couples and families and things of this nature. He said successful couples have a ratio, and this ratio, hang on tight, is 9 good instances to 1 bad. Now, when you think about your relationship, are you like, dang, what kind of ratio is that? That's impossible. Is it though? Because let's think about it, and then we're going to get into the signs and factors related to relationship burnout. But I want to talk about this because this is important to consider, because that one bad one, that could be an argument, could be a fight, could be they said something you didn't like, whatever did hurt your feelings, whatever it is. The 9 good things, sometimes they're things that they were thinking of you, or they were kind to you when they asked you to do something, or they did the dishes, right, after dinner, or they helped you take the trash cans out, whatever it is. Those are the positives. And I think that we skew ourselves so much towards the negative, and we internalize the negative so much that moves us closer to those feelings of relationship burnout, where we're like, I don't know if I want to be with this person. This is too much time, too much effort, and I'm not getting anything out of it. But is that true? Because when we look at 9 to 1 ratio, we have to look at really everything, not 9 great instances of, great trips and amazing dinners and, and wonderful surprise gifts and all this other stuff. They can't be all big things, because that isn't realistic. Relationships aren't really built or based on amazing instances. They're based on being with somebody that you can connect with, you feel safe with, and somebody who is there to support you when you go forward. Now, we're going to talk more about that in a second. Let's get into the relationship burnout. Now, the first factor I want to talk about is emotional exhaustion. This is it. Your relationship just drains you. That talking to this person just drains you. Maybe they're a big complainer. Maybe they are really pessimistic. And pessimism is absolutely a contagion in your relationship. That the more negative the individual is, the harder it is to stay in that relationship. Remember, we're talking about that ratio. So that pessimism just eats away, and it becomes so emotionally exhausting. And we have to be aware how much pessimism and cynicism is in your relationship, because that adds to that feeling of relationship burnout. And it can also add to increased cynicism, which makes total sense, is that you find yourself feeling negative or critical of your partner or the relationship. That means even the small things that they do just drive you bananas. For example, let's say that they're chompers. So when they eat something, they're going. Now, I can tell you, little personal stuff about my background, that there's someone in my family and they chomp. Just over the years, it just drives me bananas, right? And I knew that I did not want to be in a relationship with somebody who was a chomper. But if I was with somebody who I really felt connected to and was like, oh, this person's so great, and they were chompers, I would probably bring it up. I'd bring it up, not when I'm frustrated, but I would bring it up and say, let me tell you about such and such and their chompers. And, I just think there's great value in chewing quietly. That's just an example. But if I didn't say anything and I just internalized, I'm listening to this chomp, 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 that's going to drive me crazy. And I'll become more cynical about that person and about the relationship. Now, there's also lack of connection. And that absolutely adds to relationship burnout. Is that you don't feel close to your partner anymore. You feel like that there's a distance. And you're spending time together really feels like a chore. It's very labored. It's like, oh, here we are. Okay, now we're doing this. God, I can't stand this person. Or you just don't want to hang out with them, whether it's going to the grocery store, it's going to the park, or going to a concert, or playing a board game or anything like that. You just don't feel connected. This is just too much work. A different ratio is that your emotional labor is really extensive compared to the payoff, meaning that you're putting more energy and emotion into being with this person, spending time with this person, than you're getting back. And they can't be singular instances. We want to see these things over time, and we want to see how they may potentially influence your perspective of self and the relationship, because we have to be aware of that as well. And also arguments and disagreements, those can be really good to track. How often are you and your partner arguing? So the more you argue, that adds to that negative I talked about earlier, right? That 9-to-1 ratio. And also, how intense are they? Now, one of the things that same professor taught me, and I taught my kids this, and I live by this as well. If you are arguing about something for more than 3 minutes, you are no longer arguing about whatever that seeming subject is. You are now arguing about the relationship. What is it about? What's the component? Not being heard. What is underneath? What is, like I said, not being heard, not being seen, feeling taken for granted, whatever it is. And looking at that, and does it play out in your background? Does it play out as part of a pattern? And we're going to get into ways to manage relationship burnout in just a second. So the last component is loss of intimacy, which is physical intimacy. That becomes really infrequent, or it disappears altogether. You just have no sexual drive to spend it with that person. Perhaps it's gotten very sort of stale or uninteresting, and it's just not fun anymore. It becomes more mechanical. And sometimes it can be used for sort of a barometer of the relationship. So sometimes one partner or the other or both will use it to say, oh, well, see, so we're still sexual with each other. So the relationship is still good. I mean, we're still connecting, so everything should be fine. But what's the component of that? I mean, is there a sense of intimacy? Is there a sense of connection? Do you enjoy being physical with that person? But intimacy isn't just physical. It can also be certainly emotional intimacy, emotional connection. And when that's lost, you find that a lot of those conversations are stale, uninteresting. You don't look forward to telling your partner things. You definitely don't want to hear their opinions or thoughts or anything like that. All of these points are good conceptualizations about relationship burnout, and being aware of it is really important. Now, let's say you want to save your relationship. Let's say, you know what? I don't want it to burn out. I want it to be rekindled. So how do we do that? Well, you can absolutely do that. You can rekindle that relationship. First and foremost, I want you to identify the cause. What factors are contributing to that burnout? Now, it could be stress, could be a lack of quality time together, could be unresolved issues. Remember, we don't want to stay quiet about things that are bothering us or concerns that we may have. We want to see what's changed in the relationship. Maybe it is more stress. Maybe it's a monetary issue. Maybe it's a job change. Maybe there's other factors. Maybe, friends are jerky. I don't know. But it could be whatever is factoring in. Identify that cause. And we also want to add a component of communication. And you got to communicate honestly and openly. Sometimes that's really, really tough because you're afraid, well, if I say it and the cat's out of the bag, we're going to have to deal with that cat. Yeah, you are. You're going to have to deal with that cat. And the longer the cat is in the bag, the more agitated it becomes, and the more it meows and hisses and scratching its way out of the bag. And that becomes your relationship. That becomes how you feel about being in the relationship. But if it's out of the bag, you can deal with it. And that means you're also recognizing the truth of the issue in your relationship. Your relationship is not going to be great all the time. And having that view is unrealistic. And it just doesn't happen. The best relationships in the world, they always have ebbs and flows, highs and lows. Absolutely. Because that's part of the process. But if you don't communicate the issues that are going on, you will get stuffed in that bag with that cat, and you're going to get scratched up. You don't want to get scratched up. And about rekindling the spark, I also want you to think, what can you do to rekindle the spark? Now, can you make an effort to spend quality time together and do the things that you enjoy doing as a couple? Could be traveling, and traveling doesn't mean you got to go to Maui or you have to go to London or Tokyo, wherever. It doesn't have to be a great, elaborate vacation. Sometimes it can just be going somewhere nice for dinner, or it could be, going on a local trip, going to look at things that are in your town. What's interesting is I'm right outside Houston, and there's a lot of things that I don't do unless people come visit. And it's interesting because it's like, well, I should go do those things. And I know that, so that drives me to then go and see a lot of these things with my partner, that she and I go and we check out these different things and we have these different experiences. And it keeps that spark going. So try to figure out what the two of you could do together, or do something that is so out of left field. Go to a Comic-Con. Even if that's not, not high on your list, do something like that. There's supposed to be a donut convention out in LA. Now, my wife is not a big donut person, but I would like to go to that donut convention. And she's all for going to that donut convention. And one day I will go out there. I absolutely will. And that'll be something we do together. Now, she doesn't want to go, and that's totally cool. She'll come with me. But while we're out there, we'll do something she wants to do, whatever that may be. Could be a sightseeing thing, could be a boat ride, could be whatever it is. But it's part of those things. It's that give and take in that relationship. And if you feel like even exploring these things and having that open communication, and you're having difficulty rekindling the spark, you can find a mental health provider that can help you. The sooner you do that, the better off you and your relationship will be. One of the issues and challenges of couples therapy and family therapy is that people wait too long. They wait until that resentment has solidified in that relationship that it is next to impossible to do it differently. But that doesn't have to be the way it is in your relationship. Even if you've got some relationship burnout, you can still re-engage, do things differently, learn different ways of doing things, right? Explore each other in new ways, and you can absolutely do that, and you can do it together. And a therapist may absolutely be the way to do that. Don't wait too long until you just can't stand the sight of that other person. Don't get caught in that. One of the scary things, and I recognize this, is that sometimes you may come to the result or understanding that maybe the relationship, you've outgrown it. But you know what? In people that I've worked with, when both partners have realized that they've outgrown the relationship, it's still much more amicable. It's still about a lot of caring for each other and understanding. And they're able to still have different types of relationships and connection, but the things change, and hopefully you can grow together, maybe from that instance, but that you could still have that type of relationship where you are connected to someone and rekindling that relationship, and you're sharing your life with somebody who you want to see, who you want to hear their thoughts and feelings and ideas. And those are the things that really make life exciting and worthwhile. So I hope this was helpful. Like, share, subscribe, hit that bell, comment, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.